Santa Monica's got a couple like places that I would recommend that you check out. So those three would be the Santa Monica Pier, the 3rd Street Promenade, and Main Street Santa Monica. So we are heading towards one of those right now. So 3rd Street in Santa Monica is actually entirely pedestrian. So from Wilshire Boulevard, which is just this way, and then like all the way down to Broadway, which is a span of about 3 blocks, there is no traffic. And so this is kind of like a mall that extends for 3 blocks. And there's like tons of different shops, restaurants, there's street entertainment. There'll be like singers and dancers and stuff out here as the day goes on. It's looking just a really fun, like vibrant area. But then 2 blocks beyond the 3rd Street Promenade is where you get to Ocean Avenue. And Ocean Avenue's on a bluff overlooking Pacific Coast Highway. And if anyone is planning on traveling the coast, either up to like San Francisco or say like wine country, Napa Valley, like this, it's a beautiful drive, and I've done it before, and I can give you some recommendations. But here locally, as we overlook the Pacific Coast Highway, we also get a look at what is the most famous part of Santa Monica, which is the pier. So as I make my turn, it's going to be on your right-hand side. And the Santa Monica Pier was originally built in the year 1909. It was 2 separate piers that over time was made into one giant adjoining pier. So the long pier was basically used to take pipeline past the breakers. And then the short, wide amusement pier was created by a family named the Luce, who made their money primarily making carousels. And so, but this has been used in, one of the coolest things about the Santa Monica Pier is that at sunset, it's entirely lit up with lights. There's 250,000 lights on the Ferris wheel alone. It blinks in a non-repeating pattern, and it actually is solar powered as well, so it's friendly to the environment. But there's going to be, this has been a film location many times over. Some of my favorite movies that were filmed here. In the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the very first Iron Man movie, when Tony Stark takes his first test flight of the Iron Man suit, he flies all the way around Santa Monica Pier. In the movie Forrest Gump, when Forrest starts to run across the country, when he gets to the West Coast, and then he runs out of air to run, and when he gets here with his like big long beard, he reaches this blue arch sign that's going to be at this intersection, just off to the right. He stares at it, and he decides he's going to turn back and go the other way. There's an actual Bubblegum Shrimp Company restaurant on the pier as well, if you want the full Forrest Gump experience. But there's going to be a ton of stuff to do down there. There's rides, there's carnival games, there's restaurants. There's building here, kind of like a tent-like structure. And in that is what is called the Hippodrome. So here it is, just over to your right. And it is a 44-horse hand-carved carousel with a flag lead. It is the only remaining ride at its very beginning, which under normal circumstances, obviously, you can get on. And there's other stuff too. There's a Ferris wheel, there's a roller coaster. In my opinion, the roller coaster could be more thrilling. I got the sport of bodybuilding in the 1960s. Was established here in Venice, which is a place created by a man named Joe Gold, which would go on to become the original Gold's Gym. So if you were looking to be competitive in that sport, no matter what part of the world you lived in, you were going to move here to Venice and work out at that facility, which used to be this building over here on the left. And so amongst some of the most famous bodybuilders to go ahead and work out at the original Gold's Gym was one like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Arnold Schwarzenegger was actually a 6-time Mr. Olympia champion while working out at this gym. Lou Ferrigno, who used to play the Incredible Hulk on TV, used to work out at the original Gold's Gym, and that was well before, they did the Incredible Hulk with CGI. Back in the day, if you're going to portray a character like that, you needed to find a guy that big. And so, but the guys who used to go ahead and work out at Gold, now they haven't used that building in years, obviously, because today there's a brand new state-of-the-art Gold's Gym facility, which is 2 blocks over to the left off Main Street. So anyone who's in competitive fitness now on the west side generally works out over there. But the bodybuilders who used to work out at Gold also used to work out at a place which became known as Muscle Beach. So there's a weight pen here off of the Venice Boardwalk. Being tan in bodybuilding is actually a competitive advantage. It helps to show off muscle definition. So the bodybuilders used to come out here, they would do their workout regimen in the open sun, and at the same time they would get an all over tan. And it became incredibly popular. Like it still is. I mean, obviously, like the bodybuilders haven't been able to work out, since the pandemic started, but ordinarily if you came back on on a regular afternoon, like 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon, these big monstrous dudes out there working out for everybody to see. But here, as we start to go ahead and make our turn, this is Windward Avenue. It's the most famous street in Venice. most people are under the impression that the film industry of Los Angeles got started in Hollywood, which is a natural conclusion to come to, but in fact, the very first people to make movies in what would become the greater Los Angeles area started in Venice. So for example, if you look straight ahead, over here on the right-hand side, you're going to see this black and white mural done by an artist named Jonas Never. This is going to be a depiction of this street, Windward Avenue, during the filming of a movie called The Touch of Evil with Charlton Heston and Janet Leigh. And actually, this looks like a film crew unloading right now. But people all the way back to silent film, like Charlie Chaplin and the comedy duo Laurel and Hardy were almost the first to make movies here. And so you'll see everything from 30-second TV commercials to full-length motion pictures being filmed here in Venice. And so when you're walking around, you see them setting up for the shoot. You should hear the background. It should be in the movie. But here, what we're going to do, here's the Venice Boardwalk just over to our right. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to find us a place to park. And then I'm going to walk you onto the boardwalk. I'll go ahead and point out the highlights to you, give you like a...
Alright guys, so I just wanted to give you just a little context about Venice, right? At one point in time, Venice was very comparable to like what Coney Island is, right? There used to be a pier, there used to be like, it was like an amusement area, but it wasn't particularly nice, right? Like it was known as the slum by the sea for a while. And so towards the 1960s, this was an incredibly cheap place to rent a loft as an artist. So there's this enormous artist community that started to spring up out of that decade. And if you look around, there's murals painted virtually everywhere that you can put it, right? But as an artist, you've always been able to come out to the boardwalk and do whatever your art is for donation. So if you walk along the boardwalk going that way, the guys who are on the left-hand side, there'll be usually a pop-up tent on a square numbered space. It's your first come, first serve. So if you're there first in the morning, it's your spot, and you can accept donations for whatever you do. So if you're a painter, you make jewelry. Some people are performance artists, where they're like rappers or dancers. There's a guy who gives bad advice, and so there's all sorts of crazy stuff on the boardwalk. But that's kind of the fun of coming down here. Is that there's nothing really considered weird in Venice. If you're normal, you're basically the weird one here. So just know that. But a couple things I think you would enjoy checking out. Right over there, so where you see those guys standing on that railing, is called the Dogtown Skate Park. The guys who basically created modern skateboarding were known as the Zephyr Boys. They used to work at a place called the Zephyr Surf Shop in Santa Monica. They designed that skate park, where some of the best skaters in the world have skated. Tony Hawk, Johnny Knoxville from the Jackass movies and TV show will still do skate videos for skater shoots to this day. So you got the Venice Art Walls over here, which is a public space for graffiti artists. And you'll see guys out here, you're spray painting and no one arresting them, and that's the entire reason why, is that you come down, you spray paint whatever you want, and then there's no criminal liability for it. Somebody will come by an hour later and spray paint right over it. But it's very cool, you don't have to go to jail anymore. Down this way, of course, is the beach. If you want to dip your toes in the Pacific Ocean, this will be the only opportunity to do so today on this tour. So if you want to rent a board, you want to go surf for 20 minutes, feel free. The water is incredibly cold. It's almost intolerable without a wetsuit, so just know that. But these basketball courts just behind me over here, which they just reopened, at this point of the year. But one of the most famous movies ever filmed here is the movie White Man Can't Jump with Woody Harrelson and Wesley Snipes. The actual basketball courts that they played on was custom built and put all the courts were sand. The closest thing you can come to playing on that court here, these courts right here, and guys play here under normal circumstances every single day. But the building just behind the basketball courts is going to be the world famous Muscle Beach. So it's the building, the blue building, that looks kind of like a giant barbell. So it is currently you can't work out there right now because of health concerns, but if under normal circumstances, it would be $10 a day when you come back and be very undersized compared to your competition. But there's all sorts of other cool stuff. There's like souvenirs, food, best people watching in the cities here in Venice. So what we'll do is we'll give you like a half an hour to go and explore like the area on your own. So also, if you need restrooms are going to be in the little gray buildings. There's one right over here, and there's another one right over there. In the event that the restrooms are not particularly well maintained, which can happen from time to time, I'll offer you an alternative, which would be the sidewalk bar and cafe, which is going to be that red and white awning just over there. Or if you can wait until the next stop, the nicest bathrooms in all of LA are in Beverly. But the time right now is going to be 10 o'clock on the dot. So how about this? Why don't we return back to the bus at 10:35